back. You're watching Kenya's Choice on Citizen Television, the 2022 elections, and we are keeping an eye on also developments and activities at the Bomas of Kenya, where our reporter Stephen Leto is at the moment standing by to give us an assessment of what's happening there. Stephen, good morning again. Tell us more about so far how many constituencies results have been verified and counter-checked, and what more is happening.
Well, Ayub, it appears, just like you said in the first day, the fat lady will take long to start dancing because we are still under 100. And according to so far, we are doing about, we are getting closer to 50 because by morning we were at 49. And at the moment, there are more being verified. But most importantly, Ayub, is the number of returning officers that are already inside Bomas, the Bomas auditorium. We understand that almost all of them are here, just awaiting now that verification process. And, you know, that is now the elephant in the room in terms of the number of times, of the number of minutes each constituency takes to be cleared for another level and final declaration by the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, and his team. But at the moment, the verification process is ongoing. The tallying of the forms 34As at forms 34Bs before now that final declaration is made in each and every constituency. The process looks slow, but we expect that going into the day, we expect that more and more constituencies will be displayed at the projector that is inside, and as well as at the IEBC portal, and everyone or every Kenyan can be able to access and see. But of course, until this hour, we haven't gotten any brief from the IEBC in terms of giving us more constituencies, because what we understand also is the commission is piling up a few constituencies so that by they come to address the country or give the numbers, then they be giving it in terms of in bulk of 5 or 10. That is the situation. But again, we continue to see, you know, the movements at the area where the verification process is happening. A while ago, we saw a bit of movement and a bit of push and pull at the IT table, where we understand that it's just about the verification of the forms and the concerns that each party is raising. That is the Azimio One Kenya as well as the UDA side raising with regards to the forms that are making their way into the Bomas of Kenya. And so we expect that going into the next hour, we'll be getting a brief from the chairman of the IEBC, and we'll be getting more and more constituencies getting cleared for the display on the projector. It's one constituency, for instance, yesterday was projected, or was according to the IEBC, estimation should have taken about 15 minutes, but that turned up to be an underestimation, because what I will call under-ambitious by the commission, because it is taking more in terms of the levels of scrutiny, because some of the the agents and of both sides are doing what I'll call ink to pen verification of all the forms that are presented to each and every table. And so we, of course, are waiting to see and hear from the commission on where we are so far and how long again will Kenyans wait before the 290 constituencies are tallied at Bomas of Kenya. Ayub.
Stephen, just a follow-up question. You know, for Kenyans watching at home and following this process, we keep telling them they're verifying these constituency forms. But what are the mechanics actually like? When a returning officer comes and presents their papers, what goes through that verification process? You know, what are the agents looking for? And as you mentioned, you know, one constituency taking a lot longer than that prescribed 15 minutes that the IEBC chair had called for. So what does that process in plain language actually look like?
Vicky, when you get that Form 34A and look at it, it will give you very details of an election. For instance, it will give you the registered voters, the voter turnout, those that have cast their votes in favor of one candidate and the other, and it will also give you the rejected and the valid votes cast. And that again, when you go to the bottom, you will find a place where the returning officer signs, or the one in charge of the station signs. The clerks will sign, and then again, when you go down, you will see the agents having signed, agents of both parties. Some of the things that is verified right at the verification tables is whether the number of those that cast the ballot and that have been anchored or written in that form will reflect the one that has already been posted in the portal, in the IBC portal, and that is one of the very crucial scrutiny that happens to ensure that there is no any alteration or changing of the results along the way as the returning officers take their the results from the tallying centers at the constituency level right up to this point at the Bomas of Kenya. So those are some of the steps of verification that happens here, and of course the security features of the forms that are presented to the verification table also is scrutinized to ensure that it is the correct form that is being presented there. And of course, that goes around all the agents and all those representing the political parties, and of course those in charge of the IBC, those representing the IBC in the verification process right there. And so there is a lot of math in terms of also calculating the number of votes that each candidate has gotten, and then multiplying it or adding them up to see whether they will tally with the number of votes cast, the number of votes that have been rejected, and the number of stray ballots that has been tallied or registered in that particular form. And so it is as simple as that. Those are some of the key issues that are verified before now it is clear to the next stage, and then finally the declaration being done by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Vicky.
Thank you, Stephen, from the Bomas of Kenya, giving us an upbeat assessment of the situation. And Vicky, here, the mathematics, I mean, when the chairperson talked about 15 minutes per returning officer, you can imagine now, let's compare. Lamu County has 2 constituencies, so it's Yellow County 2. You have, in the cases of Kiambu County, 12, right, and Nairobi 17.
Yeah.
So mathematically, of course, it's going to be different, but all the same, though, Stephen will be giving us more about the events at the National Turning Center.
Certainly. Mashirima?
Naam, bila shaka tukiwa tunazidi tu kuzungumzia masuala haya ya matokeo ya urais, na pia tukiwa tunazungumzia majukumu ya baadhi ya viongozi wengine ambao wamechaguliwa, mojawapo ikiwa ni kuhusiana na kiongozi ama viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa kuwa wabunge. Swala kuu ambalo tulikuwa tunalizungumzia ni kuhusiana na majukumu yao, masuala ya legislation, representation na oversight. Na nikiangalia tu katika mitandao ni kuhusiana na jinsi ambavyo viongozi kutoka vyama mbalimbali wameweza kupata viti hivi. Na swali kuu ni hili: wakati ambapo wabunge hao watafika kwenye bunge, je, watakumbuka majukumu yao, kwamba majukumu yao yametenganishwa na mkono wa executive na mkono wa judiciary? Manake katika utawala ambao umepita tumeona kwamba wale ambao ndio wengi bungeni wamekuwa wakipitisha sheria kulingana na msimamo wa chama na sio sana sana msimamo wa wananchi. Bina.
Number one, it will be also interesting to watch, first of all, how the new parliament will be constituted against the backdrop of coalition. Because, like with coalitions, how they are set up, unapata kila mwaka as a political party una lose grip in terms of having the majority of the number, because kwa sasa hata ukiangalia hata kutoka 2007 wakati ulikuwa let's say na party kama ODM yenye ilikuwa na majority kwa parliament, and then 2013 wakati unaingia pia kwa coalition nyingine unapata ile number inadidimia kiasi, because then other members from other political parties within the coalition also occupy those position. So that has been the trend, and I think it will be interesting to actually note how they are going to work together, given the banner and the umbrella of the coalition that brought them to Parliament. But you see, also at the same time, given the fact that even when you have this particular umbrella, you still have a leader, at the helm of that particular umbrella. So we can also hope that we'll still see them working together the way they've worked together to garner those seats and to campaign for the same coalition. And what is encouraging is the fact that if there are two positions where we've seen a very huge turnover is when it comes to the MCA and the MP seat. So it's encouraging to see that, because it means if you actually do not deliver, chances of you coming back are very, very slim. And I think in the last election, was it Makueni County where there was no MCA who was actually, like re-elected, literally. There was no MCA in the whole county who was re-elected. So there's a very big turnover, especially on those two particular seats that we're even debating right now when it comes to Parliament. So it's a challenge to them to actually get down to work.
Naam. Warungu, unadhani wakati huu tutakuwa na wabunge ambao watasimama na kauli ya wananchi na sio zile kauli ambazo zimetolewa na viongozi wa vyama vyao katika masuala ya sheria bungeni?
Sidhani, kwa sababu kuna kitu muhimu ameweza kutaja. Lazima tuangalie siasa ya vyama na milengo, na tuangalie venye tulifanya ile amendment ya Political Parties Act amendment 2021. Kuna vitu mbili muhimu sana. Kuna coalition of political parties na coalition political party. Ukiangalia ile Kenya kwanza venye imetengenezwa, si coalition political party, ni muungano wa vyama. But ukiangalia ile Azimio ni chama, ile tunasema coalition political party. So lazima uangalie zile vyama ziko chini ya ile Kenya kwanza, zitakuwa msimamo wao ni ile inaitwa ya Kenya kwanza. Lazima tuelewe kuwa hatujafika ama demokrasia yetu ijaweza kukua ile kuna ule uhuru wa bunge. Ukiangalia watu wale independent kwa mfano wale independent MP wa 2017, wengi after walienda bunge walijiunga na ile mirengo ama zile vyama walikuwa wamejaribu nazo nomination but wakaanguka. Ama waliweza kuangalia, unajua zile siasa zetu tunasema we organize our politics around regional and tribal matrix. So kama wewe umechaguliwa independent pale Nyanza, unapata hata ukienda unaangalia pale Nyanza ni ODM na ni Azimio. So unapata hauna ile uhuru ya making decision ama nini. But tunaomba tuweze kukua demokrasia yetu na tukue na uhuru wa bunge kwa masuala ya wananchi.
All right. And Bina, let me come to you before I'm not sure whether we still have Ruth. Okay, Ruth, I come to you then. And this is all about the roles MPs do play. We are a constitutional democracy, and when we hand over that authority, we hold under Article 1. I mean, why does it prove to be problematic when MPs are rather pigeonholed by political party leadership in the country, when they ought to be driven by the interests of the common man interests we have seen with the parliament whose tenure just ended?
I think to start off with, just before I come to you, ile mtihani kubwa sana wakati huu itakuwa ni kuona kama hivi mrengo ama hivi kauli will stand the test of time, kwa sababu wengi wao walikuja pamoja ili waweze kupata urais, waweze kupata viti vingi, kama ni bungeni ama ni county assembly ama ni pale gubernatorial. Lakini sasa tushamaliza uchaguzi. Tukishapata rais ni nani, tukishajua rais ni nani, pale kwa kuchagua cabinet hapo ndio shida huwa inaanza. Pale kwa kugawana viti vya cabinet, hapo ndio huwa shida inaanza, kwa sababu ukiangalia kama Azimio for example iko na over 20 parties, hivi viti wanaenda kuvigawa aje? Kwa sababu pia kuna wengine waliambiwa wakati wa nomination, wewe usisimame, wachia mwenzako kisha tutakutafutia kitu kwa serikali. Pia ukiangalia Kenya Kwanza, wengi wao waliambiwa wewe usisimame, wachia mwenzako. Wale ambao walianguka pia waliambiwa usiende kwa huu mrengo mwingine, tutakutafutia kitu kwa serikali. Kwa hivyo ni watu wangapi ambao wanaweza kutoshea hii keki kidogo ambayo tuko nayo? Wataweza kuigawa aje? That is why I said that is the real test to see whether this coalition will stand the test of time. Now, to your question, unfortunately, and I've said this before, the elected leaders will always dance to the tune of the electorates. Why I say this is because just going by the example that my colleague has said, the one who spoke before me, if you look at Nyanza, for example, ODM dominates Nyanza. And so as an elected leader, for me to survive in the political terrain, then I will have to go by what my, the party leader or the kingpin of the area would like. If you look at Central, the same. If you look at Rift Valley, the same. Whereas we need to, as electorates, we now need to say if it is, this is what we want as electorates, regardless of, whichever divide you are in, you need to ensure that you stand and represent my rights. I think there is a time when there was a critical vote last year in Senate. And we saw that there are some Senate candidates or rather Senate leaders that just decided they're not going to vote, they're not going to show up. And whereas there were rumors that some did not show up because, they had gotten money, there are rumors that some did not show up because they were, scared of, do I take a stand and represent my people, or do I take a stand and represent, what my kingpin of the area says, what my party leader says? If you look at the political parties are meant to stand for something. Some of them, are meant to be, conservatives, and then they align themselves to fiscal conservatism. Some of them are supposed to align themselves to maybe the green movement. Some of them are supposed to align themselves and fight for the rights of people in the, labor areas. And so if we find ourselves in a situation where you are a political party, you have an ideology, you don't represent this ideology, then that is where our problems begin. Because whenever there is a crucial vote that needs to be done, you find that we are not looking at what our ideology is. We're not looking at the manifesto that we did says. We are looking at what will make us popular. And so those are some of the reasons as to why these elected leaders rarely go and represent the electorates as they should. Most of the time when they do, it is based on PR, because as an electorate, I'm not going to ask you when you come to the campaign trail, how many policies did you push? How many bills did you sponsor? How many times did you speak against an ill in parliament? We don't ask that. We always want to know, the quick fixes that you're going to tell me. And so the elected leaders will always tell us what we want to hear as electorates. So bulk of this responsibility, again, I throw it back to us as electorates, because we are the ones who dictate the terms, or we should be the ones who dictate the terms, and that's not what has been happening.
Yeah, it's interesting what you've mentioned, and I have also tied into what Mwangi talked about, that our political realms largely center around region. And this time around, though, in Central, we saw a very different phenomenon. I don't know, Mwangi, what you would tie that to, because as much as Ruth has talked about ideology should be the driver, we've not necessarily seen that at the ballot. But this shift from a Jubilee, quote-unquote, stronghold to now UDA wave that has swept most of the seats there, what would you attribute that to?
It's the first time in a span of that year that Mount Kenya were not having a major presidential candidate, or what we were calling a substantive candidate. They were provided with two evil, so they opted for a lesser evil. So I think going by what happened in 2017 and 2013, it was an extension of that through a lesser evil in probably William Ruto and the UDA. And that way you saw that there was a voter apathy, either by way that people are either tired or disappointed by the politics and the politician, or it was probably what we are calling a political strategy. So I think there are many issues. But kujaribu kujibu lile swali kitu ilimentioniwa na Ruth ni kuwa siasa haina deni. Ni vizuri tuelewe kuwa siasa haina deni. Kama uliweza kupromisiwa kitu, itabidi ugoje, kwa sababu ukiangalia zile strategies za kutafuta kula na zile strategy mtu akishachukua kiti ana employ ama na deploy ni strategy tofauti sana. Kwa sababu ya political science, ukiangalia political, kwa wengi wetu tunafanya political science, unaangalia ile kitabu inaitwa The Prince ya Machiavellian. Kuna two issues. Kuna ile kugain power na kuretain power. Ukisha power kesho ukue sworn in, unaanza zile strategies za kuretain power. Wale watu wenye uligain nao power si wale watu utataka kuretain power. So kama ulipromisiwa kwa ile process ya kugain power, lazima ujiulize utakuwa kwa ile strategy ya kuretain power.
Nadhani hapo ndio swala kuu ambalo linajitokeza ni kuhusiana na kwamba je, hizi sheria ambazo zitaundwa ama kama kutakuwa na mabadiliko yoyote katika sheria, je, zitaundwa kwa msingi wa kufaidi kila mtu? Manake hili linanifanya nifikirie theory moja ambayo kwa Kiingereza unasema veil of ignorance, ambapo ni theory ambayo inafikiria kwamba iwapo mtu atapatiwa nafasi ya uongozi, basi aunde sheria ama aunde jamii ambayo hajui atakuwa nini katika hiyo jamii. Na hilo anasema kwamba iwapo theory hii inaweza kutekelezwa, basi utapata kila mtu anajitahidi kuhakikisha kwamba anaunda jamii ambayo ina usawa na ina haki, ili akijipata kwamba hayuko kwenye uongozi ama hayuko kwenye nafasi ambayo yuko juu kuliko mwingine, basi pia yeye atapata haki zake. Sijui kama uongozi ambao utaingia iwe ni wa UDA ama Kenya Kwanza ama iwe upande wa Azimio, kama tuna matumaini kwamba watakuwa wanafanya mambo ambayo yanafaidi kila mtu, sio tu wale ambao wanaonekana kuwa ni majority au washindi. Bina.
You know, first of all, ukiangalia hata vile hizi coalitions zinakuwa formed, hazikui formed because wanaangalia huyu ndio anaweza kufanya kazi ama amefanya kazi kwa muda mrefu ama ameweza kudeliver hapa na kule. Unapata zinakuwa formed kwa sababu ya kucapture power at the end of the day. Both, you know, like on both sides of the coalition. Na kucapture power unapata ni at the helm of it, yule kiongozi wa hiyo coalition ndio anataka kucapture power, but unapata most of the times mtu anauza personal agenda kama public agenda. Unaona venye anaiuza ni kama sisi wote tuta benefit, you know, but venye ana mobilize kulingana, wacha nilete huyu manake akona track record ya kufanya kazi, wacha nilete huyu manake akona track record ya kufanya kazi, ni wacha nilete huyu manake nikileta huyu anakuja na hii tribe yake, na nikiongeza pia huyu, hii tribe pia ikikuja hapa tunaweza capture power. And I think hapo ndio kuna kuwa na challenge, na pia hii inakuwa compounded by the fact that unapata ni very few parties that have been dominating in the, like in the last few years. And we've seen the challenges at the end of the day, political parties form the government of the day. And that is why at times you'd want to go to party X, but you find yourself fighting to win a party ticket for one of the dominant parties because they're the ones that are more popular in the region where you are running for office. And because of that, you have to negotiate with the party, you know? Because you can imagine even with the new law this year that actually allowed political parties to go the zoning and consensus way. You can imagine the negotiation that went into actually deciding how do we actually allocate this, political party ticket to this candidate, you know? So if that is the level of negotiation that went into allowing you to even win that political party ticket. So at the end of the day, you'll actually be a slave to your political party, even when you occupy office, because they've done so much to ensure that you actually, win that political seat. So it also boils down to personal values and your why for seeking political power. You know, despite the vehicle you're going to use, what values do you harbor? Why do you actually want to lead the people of whichever community where you are running for political office? And that is where it should start, you know. But if it starts from, if there's no, CDF kitty, then I don't think I'll run for office. At the end of the day, if the roles of the MP is to legislate, is to make those policies. Those policies should translate to pushing for interventions that improve our quality of life. So if your driving force is, how do I improve the quality of life of members of this community? Then it's by coming up with policies that push for those particular interventions and not necessarily the small handouts and the small kitty, which doesn't even benefit majority of the citizens at any given time.
No.
Thank you. And Mashirima, we are due for a short break here on Kenya's Choice on Citizen Television. When we get back, we continue the discussion with Warungu Mwangi, Bina Maseno, and also Ruth Bolo, who is joining us virtually here, as we unpack what has been an eventful week ever since Kenyans exercised their rights under Article 1 of the Constitution in voting. And we'll be keeping an eye at the Bomas of Kenya, where the ongoing verification of the Form 34S by the returning officials is ongoing, and we'll be getting hold of Stephen Leto when we get back from the break. Stay tuned.